these are my favourite items of rolling stock of 2023 so far. Big hello to you! I hope I find you well and it's so great to see you. I'm Jenny Kirk, welcoming you up here to Weir Yard. And today we're going to be taking a look at the all-new Rapido ferry van. Now this is probably the last missing link that's left to do in modern ready-to-run form for 00 gauge modelers. We've had pretty much every single other van, but this one has been conspicuous by its absence, save for a very old-tooled model from another manufacturer. But Rapido have now finally changed that, and we have got a super duper spec for the 21st century, and they've very kindly sent one over to the channel so that we can have a good close look together. So I'm really actually quite excited from what I've seen so far. The wagon itself does look to have quite a lot of added detail to it, and has one or two little secrets that I'm going to reveal to you in this video. So in association with Trainomatic, makers of DCT decoders and accessories that are designed by enthusiasts for enthusiasts. Find the full range available to order now at tramfabrique.co.uk. Additional support comes from Rocar Prototype Models, where detail, accuracy and value for money go hand in hand. With their debut model of SafePack auto racks wowing model railroaders alike, now is your chance to order these in road names and configurations to accurately reproduce auto rack workings from 1974 to the present day on your model railroad. Order today from rocarmodels.com and see the full range for yourself. So I'm really actually quite excited because this is a wagon which I've looked at longingly for quite some time, and I've been waiting for a high-spec ready-to-run model. So Rapido Trains very kindly sent this over, and together we're going to be taking a good close look and see if it was worth the wait. And as always, don't forget that we have got an affiliate link in the description box down below to help you to find this wagon and all of the similar versions that are available in all those different liveries, including the Satlink yellow and red, Dutch grey and yellow, Rail Freight Distribution grey and red, and all of the other olive green and BR bauxite brown versions that are available from Rapido Trains. But hurry, they are selling out quite quickly. So come with me and we'll take a closer look. Rapido might be a relative newcomer in the ready-to-run scene in the UK, but they've certainly been making up for lost grounds, and the latest release to be brought forward from them is this ferry van, which is available in a number of different liveries which are suitable for the full lifespan of the prototype. On the end of the box we've got some more details here, and this is the diagram 1-227 ferry van. And this is in the later Engineers olive green livery with the tops code of ZYX. Now, if you remember the video that I did quite some time ago, just explaining what these letters mean, Z is for an Engineers wagon which has 4 wheels. Y is the specific designation for the wagon within the Engineers fleet, and X is for the brake system, so you could tell at a glance just what brake system the wagon had. In this case, it is fitted with both working air and vacuum braking, and this is a legacy of its time as a ferry wagon working through into the continent, where it was necessary for it to have a braking system that would work not just with continental railways, but again on Britain's railways when it came back to the UK. These were built partly as a response for the fact that the ferry wagons that were coming through from the continent were getting bigger, more efficient, and BR still had this legacy of these rather tiny wagons, the 12-ton vans. And not to be outdone, they put an order in for around 400 of these ferry vans. And these really were a radical change from what had come before. And if we bring it back in, this standard van fit, you can see that the ferry wagons were absolutely huge, like nothing else that had ever really run on Britain's railways from the home fleet. And these are more in keeping with the kind of wagons that had been coming through from France, Germany, and from Italy as well. Measuring a massive 42 feet over the headstocks, these had a wheelbase of 26 foot 3 inches, and that's a far cry from the 9 foot and 10 foot wagons that we'd had in the UK and got used to. These had a carrying capacity of 20 tons, and with sliding doors on either side, giving a 13-foot long opening, they were actually really quite good for loading and unloading, and they really weren't surpassed until the introduction of bogie vehicles in the 1970s. And at that point, I think probably more because they had a lot of life left in them and the dual braking, they were cascaded to a number of other important uses, including barrier vans, and also the engineers' fleet took an awful lot, and that allowed them to last right through into the 1980s and 1990s, and a number of examples of this wagon do still persist in use as usually storage on preserved railways. The prototype has been available from another manufacturer before, but it was a very long in the tooth moulding, so it's very, very welcome that Rapido have taken on this once ubiquitous prototype and brought us a high quality ready to run model. In the box with it, we've also got some additional detailing parts for brake pipes and couplings, and these point to quite a lot of detail that is here on the underside of the wagon, and you can see there the complexity of the dual braking system that these wagons had has been perfectly replicated in model form by Rapido. It's nice to see because you can actually see it from the side. It's a very open underframe, and with the long gap between the wheels, the vacuum and air brake is all perfectly visible. Factory fitted, all of this is on there from the factory out of the box, including the clasp brake rigging, which often we've seen before from other releases from other manufacturers. The user is left to fit these themselves. Not so on these. The wheels have no rotation to them, so you don't have to worry about the vehicle ending up crabbing. That's certainly something that has plagued long wheelbase vans in the past, but there are no compromises on this. In terms of couplings, we've got this spring-loaded self-centering cam mechanism with the slimline tension locks fitted in NEM pockets, and this is exactly the same design that is common on bogie coaches and should ensure that these wagons can make it round some quite tight curves without risking any buffer lock. The buffers are, as you would expect from Rapido, all sprung loaded and feature the correct pattern oval faces. On the buffer beam we've got the hole, which is a push fit for that additional detailing, and for the pipe work there are some hidden holes just underneath, but there are full instructions in the wagon which tell you exactly how to fit that additional detail. And also Rapido, well noted for their sense of humour, so we've got a little bit on there from the sense of humour machine at Rapido. We've also got a potted history of the wagons which I've gone into, and it is nice to see all this additional information. Quite often you buy a wagon and there's no real hint. If you don't know already about the wagon, there's just nothing there, but with this we do get all of that information. The side panels of this wagon are crisply moulded, and you can see there the Electric Engineer Construction branding, the ZYX and the data panel on there is all crisply printed in place. There is a lot of additional detail down the side. The olive is a little bit on the shiny side, but certainly not too shiny, more of a satin feel. And underneath there is such a wealth of detail down on the underframe. The springs also correctly modelled with the weight of the wagon on them. And it's something that I have noticed on wagons out there, that quite often the springs aren't shown in this compressed nature, but on this wagon the W-irons, the axle boxes are slightly up to simulate the weight of the wagon pressing down onto that suspension. We've also got these actually quite robust flanges, which would have been used on the train ferries to actually strap the wagon down and to stop it from being able to move in any kind of rough seas. The extra handrails on here too are incredibly nicely done, all separately applied, and this is where this wagon has a really quite impressive trick up its sleeve. Just like the real wagons, we can slide back these doors, and they're captive in their runners, but there are no compromises here to allow it to do that. Scale thickness. On the sides, the doors tuck in just like they do on the prototypes, and inside we've got a fully planked floor, and the door on the other side also slides back. And that led me to think that there's a lot of opportunities to do cameo scenes with this. You could imagine this loaded up with maybe cable drums or crates and such like, and certainly some of the other liveries as well. You could have fruit in there, really just limited by your own imagination. But the thing that really springs to my mind is perhaps, what about some hobos? Not really quite a UK scene, but certainly for a bit of fun, maybe put some of those in there as a little cameo scene that if you want to be a little bit more serious, you can close the door on, and only you will know that they're in there. But I really do like that. It's a very smooth mechanism, but they are quite resilient. It's a really great design, actually. This doesn't feel like any risk of them just coming free, falling out, getting lost, and they have a very nice positive slide to them without any compromise to the body side of the wagon. The ends of these wagons, again, is faithfully reproduced from the prototype. We've got those lamp brackets which are separately applied. On this particular example, the overhead warning flash, and all of those rivets and gussets are really quite crisp. Everything is on there just as it should be. Looking back down the other side, again, a replication of all of that great detail. This really is quite a crisply moulded model. The roof on this particular example is a very, very shiny black, and I did wonder about this. I think it would certainly benefit from some weathering. Looking to other engineers' wagons here with this darker roof, it does look to be more black than this very dark grey. And if there was one area where I could possibly criticise it, is the colour on this roof. It does also seem to show up a few blemishes, and you can see there from the factory just a little bit of a mark. But certainly this is an area where a little bit of weathering would go a long way, and the base wagon certainly is superb. They're available from stockists in a variety of different liveries that cover the wagon throughout its entire history, including the very, very colourful Satlink yellow and red, and certainly that looks to be one of my favourites from the other liveries available. We've got a number of olive green, and then we've also got them in barrier wagon livery, which is certainly applicable for their later usage. And then we've got them in rail freight distribution, red and grey, and the original brown as well. All in all, there's a great range being released from Rapido from the off, and really this is a superb wagon. For me, the highlights really are this complex brake rigging on the underside that really is a joy to look at. All of the detail factory fitted, including the stretcher bars and the clasp brake rigging, with the only thing left for the end user to fit are the coupling hooks and the additional pipework, which is probably a little bit incompatible with the slimline tension lock, so it's a case of one or the other. When it came to running, I was just a little bit apprehensive about how well the wagon would cope with what can be down to some quite severe curves. But even on the torture test track down to radius 1, it got round there surprisingly well, and I had wondered whether we would end up with any kind of issues too, because these wheels don't have any kind of lateral play, but actually didn't cause any problems whatsoever. The only area where there could have been a small problem was that the spring on the tension lock was just a little bit on the tight side, and I found that it didn't actually move to either side particularly well when running through very tight curves, but it didn't seem to cause any great problem. Through complicated point work, the wagon performed really well, and there was no sign of any great stepping out of the ends, even on some of the more severe reverse curves. Overall, this was a pretty good performer, and I was quite surprised and pleased at how well it operated through the entirety of Weir track. So we turn now to scores. First up is build quality, and I've been supremely impressed with how well this wagon has held together. There's a lot of detail, but it doesn't mean that we get that kind of rain of small parts that usually happens when you have something as intense as this, with all of these separate parts, and it does feel like a lot of thought has gone into the nature of the materials used that range from hard plastic, some metal, and some quite springy plastic too, so that this is able to withstand a lot of knocks and bumps. I also really like these steps on the side. They're a springy material, some kind of plastic, but they stay put. They're really quite well on there, and that really is a pleasure to see, because I've had a lot of poor experience of little steps that just kind of come loose and you find them on the track at a later date. The doors too could be seen as a gimmick, but actually they're very robust, they're well attached, and it doesn't seem to have been done at a compromise to how the wagon looks. So really pleased with that. All in all, I'm going to give this 10 out of 10. Next up is running quality, and as said in the review, it performed pretty well with only minor issues with the tightness of the spring on this self-centering mechanism. Everything else was pretty good, and I'm going to give this a 9.8. On DCC fitting and innovation, well, DCC fitting doesn't apply, but innovation, this wagon has it by the bucketful. This brake rigging really is a joy to see, and you can see that from the side, but for me, the real standout are these sliding opening doors that give rise to so many possibilities for cameos and loading and unloading scenes. They haven't been done in a way that compromises the model. There's no gimmicks here. It really does feel like they did it because it was just the natural thing to do. And the runners are scale thickness, but the doors are not flimsy in the slightest. The rest of the detail of the wagon has also not been compromised, and this for me is a real standout feature. There's also a lot of other details, from the springy footsteps, the ferry chaining points, and the metal handrails that really do make this wagon a joy to look at, and I'm going to give this the full 10 out of 10. On accuracy and quality of finish, the model is a very good rendition of the prototype. It feels like a lot of what might have been the easy compromises to make have been avoided by Rapido, and compared to the photographs of the real thing, this wagon measures up really well. The only area on this model that I felt was a little bit of a letdown was this super shiny black roof, and I do feel that it would have been better with a much more matte finish. The other issue that this shiny black does show is that it does show up even the most minor of blemishes, and there are a couple to be seen on this roof, and I'd like to think that maybe in the future Rapido could make sure that there's a much more matte finish to this, because it just looks a little bit too shiny. But really that's the only fault I could find, and I'm going to give this a 9.4. On value for money, these are available discounted for just under £40, and there is a huge range to choose from that really colourful yellow and red Satlink livery through the red and grey of the rail freight distribution. We've got other olive green options, we've got the brown liveries that they originally ran in both pre and post to tops lettering, and it really is a great choice to choose from. There is a lot of detail here, which obviously will push up the cost. And the only little caveat that I might have is that I just want to know that these doors haven't added substantially to the cost. They are a nice touch, but I do feel that for most of the time these wagons will be running around layouts with the doors firmly closed. And I'm going to give this an 8.9. And that gives us a final score of a very respectable 48.1, and certainly these are my favourite items of rolling stock of 2023 so far. I'd like to extend my thanks to Rapido for very generously sending this over for review to the channel, giving us this opportunity to get a good close first look at the ferry vans from their ready-to-run stable. Well, I hope you really enjoyed today's video, and don't forget we've got an affiliate link in the description box down below to help you find all of the different versions of the Rapido ferry van that was reviewed today. And I'd love to hear from you what you thought about this model in the comment section down below. It's always great to hear from you. Is this a model maybe that's on your radar as well? Have you got one of these on order? Indeed, have you already received it? Or maybe there's something that you think that I've missed in the video that's really important to point out. Do please leave a comment down below, and it's always great to hear from you guys. And you can also suggest anything maybe that you want to see in future videos, and we do take all suggestions on board. We've also got our full merch store, so do check that out down below. And we've got t-shirts, hoodies, mugs, stickers, the whole works. And of course that Monday Club Wagon still available to order as well. But until next time, this is me, Jenny Kirk, saying you take great care of yourself. Happy modelling. Bye for now. Today's video is sponsored by Train-O-Matic, makers of DCC decoders designed to be fully compatible with every manufacturer's locomotive. Visit train-o-matic.com to browse the full range and see what they've got suitable for you. Additional support comes from Rocar Prototype Models, where detail, accuracy and value for money go hand in hand. With their debut model of SafePack auto racks wowing model railroaders alike, now is your chance to order these in road names and configurations to accurately reproduce auto rack workings from 1974 to the present day on your model railroad. Order today from rocarmodels.com and see the full range for yourself. I'd like to send out a huge thanks to everybody who supports me on Patreon, and an extra special huge thanks goes out to Anthony Kidson, Offshore Allen, Michael Lockie, Helen Sink, Gary Lewis, David Quinn, Sparky107107, George Botterini, Chris Moss, Robert Steers, Sam Yates, Dale Williams, John N. from NC, NYMRish, Jonathan Foster, Peter, Clifford Ison, Larry W. Grant, NI Railways 4000 class, Ian Coulson, Alan Dickerson, Eddie Papere, Karen Nichol, Medwin Williams, Crossways Point Junction, 3B Rail, Jennifer Horton, and James Beckett. Thank you. Without you guys, I couldn't do this.